Welcome to my ultimate Illari Pylon guide. I'm Tephrite, a top 500 support main who has hit GM playing only Illari, and in this video I'll be going through my favorite pylon locations for every escort map, both cool and effective spots. This video will be timestamped, so if you want to skip ahead to specific maps, feel free, but I highly recommend watching all the way through. If you think I missed a spot or have any questions, I stream on Twitch almost every day and I'll be happy to help. With that, let's jump into the first map, which is Circuit Royale. We'll start on attack. A nifty pylon I like to place is right under the shelter here, as it allows you to cover both the main entrance as well as the flank route next to the mini. As you push up, there's a spot on the car's back wheel that you can use to heal the low ground, and gives complete cover from both left and right high grounds. A nice little defensive pylon I like to put at the start of each round is right against his face. However, this can be seen from the stairs, so be sure to reposition it as the enemies claim height. Once again, using cover, this spot is well protected from high ground and most of the stairs, whilst it heals all the low ground area. Stepping a bit further back, there's this banner which is great for both attack and defense. All that changes is the side that you put it on. Spots like these are ideal and can be found in loads of maps in the game. Moving on to the second point, there's this cheeky spot with a good amount of cover to help as you're taking the hill. Similarly for defense, there's also one right opposite it that can help pressure out the ramp. As we move closer to the point, this pillar provides so much cover and enables you on the flank and in main. And in a similar fashion, there's one just above the entrance, which is quite hard for the defenders to destroy. On the other hand, whilst regrouping, there's a cheeky pylon spot right here, which is nicely tucked away. Just make sure you're safe enough to use your shift first. Finally, moving on to the third point, as you're pushing up, there's a little hidden spot here next to the bot that works great for the attackers. On the other hand, for the defenders, there's a cubby right here next to the mini which heals both low ground and high ground, or just about. A good rule of thumb is if you can't find a good spot, place it high above, which this pylon does perfectly, whilst also being relatively sheltered depending on the position of the cart. Finally, a fun pylon to place is right on the chandelier, as it heals both low ground and high ground, and also has good cover from the enemy attackers. That's it for Circuit Royale. Let's move on to Dorado. A great pylon to start out with is this one right here, but it can be tricky to place. It heals all of high ground as well as the low ground. However, it is easily destroyed. A safer spot is just next to it, which can see both high grounds and small bit of low ground too. Going back to what I said earlier, this spot way up in the balcony is relatively hidden as well as gives great coverage for the first point. Moving on to the second point though, if you find the enemies camping height, this pylon is nicely hidden and gives you really good coverage on the attacking side. However, if you are on the defending side, this pylon is extremely tucked away and very safe from any dive. If you've claimed high ground away from the defenders, this pylon is nicely hidden away and will keep you topped up on height, as well as being sheltered from the opposite height. Moving on to the third point, this is my go-to defending pylon, as it covers all of high ground as well as a lot of the low ground, whilst being hidden away. If you're fighting for your lives right before the point caps, you can place this pylon way up on this tube, and it's completely sheltered from all high ground as well as healing most of the final stage point. Speeding through Dorado, we now find ourselves on Havana. A nifty trick to know is you can actually hide the pylon on the payload in some maps like Havana, especially since the payload is going up a hill, giving even more cover. Flipping to the defending side, I gotta say this pylon spot is insane, as it heals all of high ground as well as the low ground whilst being completely in cover. A last ditch pylon spot though, when all hope is lost, is right next to this mega right here, as it's nicely tucked away behind the pillar, although it is in sightline so it can't just die to splash damage. Moving on to the second point, this pylon spot is great for reaching both high grounds and low ground. However, if you do have someone who tends to play on top of these pipes, or you yourself want to play there, this spot is great for that. On the attacking side, these crates provide perfect cover for the final stage of this point. Finally, moving on to the third point, it's pretty open so there aren't too many spots. However, this one placed against the wall can provide a decent amount of coverage. It's not the greatest though, as it can easily be spammed out by splash damage, so use it with caution. The best spot by far for this point is right back on top of the gate, as it's pretty well sheltered as well as covers both high grounds and the cubbies below. Now let's move on to Junkertown. Starting out on attack, this pylon spot is a no-brainer. Similarly to Circuit Royale, it's a perfect spot that splits you and the enemies. Moving up, you can set your pylon along any of these spots, as it'll heal you on the bridge and allow you to maintain high ground. As we press on, this spot is perfectly hidden, but be mindful of the flank around Mega. Switching over to the defensive side though, this spot is a great first pylon if your team wants to play a bit aggro, as it does heal whoever is on the first bridge. However, it is a bit tricky to place. Be sure to quickly swap it out though, as the enemies push past the first bridge, as it is really easy to destroy. For the second point, there's only really one spot I like to use, and this one is the perfect one that covers both low ground and high ground while also being safe from the window flank. Be careful though, because the other flank up the stairs is a great spot for flankers to destroy it from. Finally, for the third point, there's a great hidden spot next to this machine which covers all of the low ground. However, as a Illari, you're more likely going to be playing high ground, so this pylon right here provides a lot of coverage and is really hard to destroy. Make sure to place it on the left side though, as it is quite visible on the right. Getting into more dire situations, this pylon spot sees all of the final point through the window, whilst also allowing you to cover the flank from the high ground and mini. That's everything for Junkertown. Let's head over to Rialto. For the first point, this spot right here just barely peeks out to heal your team in main, as well as allows you to apply pressure using this off angle and in turn stopping your team from getting flanked. On the defensive side, this pylon right here provides the exact same benefits as the first one, but for the defenders. If you plan on playing high ground though, using this archway heals both low ground and allows you to maintain pressure from high ground. Coming to the point itself, this angled pylon allows you to heal low ground whilst also pressuring high ground. This positioning allows the pylon to be safe from the high ground at the defender spawn, whilst also being hard to shoot on the point itself. Since there's no high ground to worry about as a defender, this pylon can be placed a little more aggressively, giving the same coverage for low ground, but more room to work with on high ground, whilst also being safe from the flank. Speaking of the defender spawn high ground, this pylon allows you to contest bridge safely whilst also forcing the enemies to commit if they want to destroy the pylon. When trying to push past this overhang, this pylon spot is well sheltered from low ground and all high grounds, whilst also allowing your team to be healed from your own high ground. Similarly on first point, you can hide a pylon away behind this archway, which still heals main as well as the point itself. It's also extremely sheltered from both low ground and high ground. All you need to worry about is the flank around Mega. On the attacking side, this undercover spot allows you to heal main whilst also being relatively sheltered. The final dire pylon spot can be placed behind these crates. Although it can heal you in cover next to the mini room, it can easily be broken. Moving on to third point, there's a little cubby over here which is perfect for a pylon. It covers all of low ground, including this elevated area, and in order for the enemy to shoot it, they need to fully push past the ramp as they can't see it from the window. On the attacking side, using these light shades can give you a great pylon spot that is extremely sheltered and covers all of the main area. Similarly to Circuit Royale, this high up pylon spot is completely out of line of sight from the enemies, whilst also healing quite a large area. Finally, this last ditch pylon is well covered. However, the way the third point is, there aren't really any good pylon spots, unfortunately. Done with Rialto, let's head on over to the Wild West of Route 66. A great starting pylon is right here behind this pillar if you want to try to take some duels and get some early damage off on the bridge. However, always be mindful of the Widowmakers. Backing it up, an extremely sheltered spot is right behind this billboard. There's a tiny hole where you can shoot it through, but chances are it'll be fine. Playing close to the point, the spot on top of the tires works great. Be sure to place it on the double stack though, as the single only heals you if you're jumping. For second point, there's a nice early pylon spot underneath the skywalk, and right next to it there's a great one for the attackers, which is sheltered from all of the high grounds. If you're going to take high ground, which is likely as a Illari, there's a couple spots behind this billboard for both attackers and defenders. As you push up, there's a spot behind this pillar which covers all of low ground. If you want, you can angle it a bit riskier so that it can reach the bridge whilst also being relatively sheltered. Backing up to the final stages, this bike acts as a great cover for the pylon which reaches high ground and low ground. Third point is a bit tricky. Placing an initial pylon right here behind these beams provides great cover, but the enemies can push past to destroy it. A safer spot would be right in this cubby, which is quite sheltered and heals both high grounds, although in saying this, it can also be destroyed from the deeper high ground, so be careful of that. Falling back a bit, if you have control of this flank, you can use this spot down here. As a last resort, you can hide a pylon deep into this pillar, which heals both cover spots. Sprinting through route, we're now on Shambali. Starting us off, there's a nice pylon spot in this doorway, which is completely sheltered from the low ground and flanks, whilst also healing all of the high ground. There's a cheeky pylon spot, which can be tricky to place right up here. However, there is a nice lineup, which I shall show you over here if you prefer this spot. I personally prefer the previous one though. Backing up past this choke, you can place a pylon really anywhere here to get value, but if you move a bit further back next to the actual point, you can use this sign to place your pylon as it heals main, high ground, and this little hiding spot whilst also being well covered. Moving to the second point, if you're standing your ground or waiting for your team to regroup to recontest first point, this pylon up here against the beam works great. Dropping back, you can angle your pylon off of this rock to heal your team at the choke, whilst also keeping these pesky flankers away. Unfortunately, this area does have a lot of flank routes, so this might be the best you can do. If you want a safer spot though, this one works great, and you only need to watch the flank on the left. As a last ditch pylon, this spot behind the archway has a great amount of cover and heals everyone for the last ditch contest. Keep in mind though that it is in line of sight of everybody, so it can be easily destroyed. As an attacker, this pylon is extremely sheltered and allows you to push the cart outside whilst getting healed. On the flip side though, as a defender, placing a pylon right next to this flank spot is great for healing your team in main, whilst also allowing you to apply pressure from an off angle. There aren't any good last-ditch pylons unfortunately, so this is the best one I can suggest to you, unless your team gets enough pressure for you to place a pylon next to either of these ramps. Now onto the final ESCORT map today, Watchpoint Gibraltar. Gibraltar's got some juicy pylon spots, the first one being up on this high ground in between these boxes. It's extremely well sheltered and covers all of high ground. If you want to play from server room as an off angle to attack or defend from, this pylon up top allows great cover whilst also keeping you quite healthy. Pushing up, this beam is also great for completing this point. This pylon by the forklift can also work as it's quite sheltered and provides healing to the right side of the point. Just depends on where your team is playing. Backing up to the second point, placing a pylon up here in the airship can actually heal both skywalks, which is super beneficial. Backing up a bit, once again using this forklift as cover, you can place your pylon here to heal high ground and low ground. If you want a bit more of a sheltered pylon though, there's this one right here behind the beam, which works great. Third point though can be tricky. If you're trying to play from bridge, this pylon up here is extremely protected and will keep you topped up. Dropping back a bit, you can use the bridge itself as cover for the pylon, which works great. Finally, this is probably your best last ditch effort pylon, although I can't lie, it's not the greatest. Those are all my pylon spots for escort maps. If I've missed any, please leave them in the comments below so we can all improve, as I feel like great pylon spots are an overlooked part of Illari's kit. If you found this at all helpful, be sure to subscribe as I'll be posting more spots for every other map in the game. If you want to chat about any of this live, feel free to hop into my stream as I'm live almost every day. Peace.